guitar. Today we are going to be looking in our text at notes on the 6th string. So far we've gone through a total of 5 strings. We even learned the C major and the A minor scale. And now we're going to take a look at notes on the 6th string. Again, exploring that concept of the octave. Just from first look at the 6th string, you'll see that we have the notes E, F, and G. We've already learned the notes E, F, and G in 2 other places on the 1st string as open, 1st fret, and 3rd fret. We also learned E, F, and G between the 4th and the 3rd string, where we had E as the 2nd fret, 4th string, F as the 3rd fret of the 4th string, and G as the open 3rd string. And so now we're going to look at the 6th string. Again, we're dealing with ledger lines, just like we saw on the 5th string. Here we have 3 ledger lines with the note below it. We're going to call that one E, and we're going to strike E open. Now you might notice that as similar to when we played it on the 1st string. And so because this is the case, the guitar is tuned the 6th and the 1st string to the same pitch 2 octaves apart. So the fretting is going to be the same for all the notes on the 6th and the 5th string, and that'll always be true. There'll be 2 octaves apart. So the note F is on the 1st fret 6th string. And we're going to use our first finger to do that. While we're playing in the open position, the frets and the fingers share the same number. And again, that's with 3 ledger lines and the note going through it. And then here we have 2 ledger lines with the note below. We're going to call that the note G. That is the 3rd fret, 3rd finger on the 6th string. Now you should notice that if you're playing this finger style, a good way to go about this is to play with the thumb, pulgar. It's one of the lower ones, unless you're doing some kind of line, scale-wise motion of something. Otherwise, we can use the thumb. And of course, if you're playing with the pick, just in a regular downward motion, striking the notes. And especially when there's not much, if we're not doing a chord or something like this, if we're just playing melodic lines, and it's not something super fast, rest stroke tends to be pretty good with the pick as well. It allows a lot of power to go through it. So rest stroke meaning you strike through with the pick and you land on the next string, the 5th string. Same thing with the thumb, P. We can do rest stroke where we get it to land on the 5th string. So let's put this into these exercises we have here. Today we're going to look at exercises 51 through 53. You'll notice that our technique is exactly the same here. In strings, they call this bridging. I like to use that term for guitar as well. When we go from F to G and then back to F, we can keep that first finger down to help smooth out the sound. So we can call that bridging. So here we're going to go from E to E, F, F, G, G, F, F. Then the rhythm picks up the quarter notes, E, F, G, F. We can also bridge right there since we're going F to G to F, and then ending on E. Always good to play with a metronome. 1, 2, here it is. The same thing with a pick. Here it is. All right. Now, exercise 52, of course, pause the video, go back, play along, all that good stuff. Exercise 52 here, we see a lot more jumping around. We can see that we're going to go from the 6th string, we have that F, right? Always match up your signs, your symbols. Make sure what you're looking at is accurate. Notice that we're not starting with E on this one. The note head is going through the ledger line, so this is note F. And then we jump all the way to the 4th string, to D. And then we jump down to C, which we know is on the 5th string. So immediately already we're playing 3 notes at 3 different strings, a lot of string crossing happening here. In a situation like this, I might use just P, the thumb, to play those notes. Now the next thing I should notice, after I've seen the shape of the music, because we always look at the shape of the music, read ahead, is that measure 2 is exactly the same as measure 1. So once I've learned measure 1, I know that I'm just going to repeat that figure right here. So I had F, and then D, and then C, and then D, and then again F, and then D, and then C, and then D. And when we look at measure 3, we see that it is different in terms of the shape, but once we really examine it, we'll see that this note is F on the 4th string, 3rd fret, but then we have that same figure before, D, C, D. So it's still F, D, C, D, the difference now just being instead of playing the low octave F, we're going to play the higher octave F. Of course, until we get to the last measure, A, G, F, where we have unique music. So the first measure repeats basically 3 times with the change of the octave on beat 1 in that 3rd measure, and then the 4th measure is a little bit different. Twice again, once with the thumb and then again with the pick. 1, 2, here it is. The same thing with the pick. 1, 2, here it is. And of course, still when on the 6th string, making sure that you're playing with the full curvature. So you should notice that the dent on the finger ends up really at the tip, right? You don't want to use the flats of the fingers. You still want to get a nice curl to see so that you have room to play the other strings as you go along. All right, and then the final exercise here, number 53. A lot of moving. We can see that this is going, not a lot of repetition in terms of notes. We can see we're starting down on the 6th string. It goes up to the 4th string, but then it comes back down. So I know that I'm still dealing with these 3 strings here. Let's take a quick look at it. We have E, and then F, and then A is the open 5th string, and then C, and then D is the open 4th string, back to C, back to that A, back to that F. All right, so there was a little bit of a pattern here. We went up to the D and then repeated backwards. Then here we go to the G, F twice, E, and then we end on F. So F being our tonal center for this particular piece. Of course, if the notes aren't coming to you as quickly as I'm going through them right now, go back in the book, review the pages that have notes on the 5th string, notes on the 4th string. Review those pages, make sure you got the notes under your belt and under your fingertips, and then come back and do this part again. So again, 2 playthroughs. I'm going to do it once with just P. I like to use P when we're doing the lower strings as opposed to the alternating I and M as we've done in the higher notes. So I'll play through it once using just P, and then I'll play through it again using a pick. 2, here it is. This time using a pick. Here it is. So, as per usual, pause the video, work on these exercises, use a slower tempo. I had it set to 72 today, so take it from a slower tempo and work your way up. If you want to work faster as well, that's great as well. Just always make sure you're using a metronome. You want to instill that sense of good time.